President Bola Tinubu has been re-elected for another one-year tenure as chairman of the Economic Community of West African States Authority of Heads of State and Government. Tinubu's first tenure is to elapse on July 9th, 2024, in a unanimous decision by fellow heads of government at the 65th Ordinary Session of the Authority of Heads of State held in the nation's capital, Abuja, on Sunday. In his acceptance speech, the president said, "I have accepted to continue to deliver on this service with the great men and women on this democratic journey to serve our interests and build democratic values on the structure we inherited." Well, joining me on the program at this time is Ejike Okpa. He's a global affairs analyst. Thank you for joining me, Ejike. Let's start off with this. The previous year of the administration of President Bola Tinubu as chairman of ECOWAS, how would you rate it so far?
Thank you for having me. Everybody, let me use this analogy. This is like at the beginning of a semester, everybody's given the benefit of doubt, and every student is given an A. And then as the semester goes in, you start to see the grade drop. So the question then is that, to your question, how would I give Tinubu
scorecard?
How would I grade? How would I grade him? I don't know how to give him a scorecard. Between A, B, C, D to F, and the last word being H, horrible. I think, given what is going on in Nigeria and then some of the crises that's happened in the French-speaking African country, I don't know what has happened to warrant him to get an A. He hopefully, in this second term, he may rise to the occasion and make things happen. But so far, I haven't seen Tinubu showing effectiveness in leadership or communicating an idea or a vision to inspire either Nigerians or even West Africans. So again, the jury is out. He can redeem himself, but so far he's looking like a lame duck. So what would that grade be like? He's not a C. He's not a C minus. He's just something like a.
But some will actually argue on the contrary, saying that since he assumed office, ECOWAS has sort of received some sort of resurgence when it comes to being vocal, being visible in the faces of people. The ECOWAS before now seemed to have gone docile, but when he became chairman, just over a year, everybody is saying, what is ECOWAS saying about this? What does ECOWAS have to say? So some would say that ECOWAS somehow has been brought to the front burner when it comes to global affairs. Don't you also share that line of thought?
Like I said, you can say that Tinubu has his fan and then Tinubu has his foes. The point is, what is ECOWAS? You have these 15, loosely gathered group of nations, that haven't really done anything here. I tried to reach the executive director, or whomever manages that organization in Abuja, to say, hey, why don't you guys speak to this? Why don't you speak to a currency union? Why don't you by now create a currency union to remove these 15 currencies that get confused? Nobody knows what is what. Try to convert cedis to naira to and vice versa. That's what has to be. Nigeria is the biggest country population-wise in the ECOWAS community. So Nigeria has a big influence, but Nigeria has not exerted that influence to become a relevant member. Occasionally, you hear things happen, that may say, okay, they're still alive. But basically, they are dead. It's a dead organization because by now, ECOWAS should have been a leader because you have more countries on the West African region than any other group of nations in Africa. So ECOWAS should have been a symbol of what motivates and inspires to say, oh yeah, this is what we want to do. Not the East African community, not the SADC, and of course the people in the North, when it's convenient for them, they want to be Africans. Basically, they want to be Middle Easterners. So what has Tinubu done? Again, he has his fan. They can say yes. But in terms of measurable economic, political assets, where is ECOWAS today? Is it quelling the issues about individual countries wanting to fight France? Has Tinubu spoken up and said, hey, France should not be meddling in the issues affecting West Africans? Just give me an example instead of just imagined feelings of Tinubu is doing something. Okay. Again, look at his own home base. Look at Nigeria. Where is the naira today? Look at the level of anger and hunger that exists in the country. So you cannot be talking about the pain when you have not secured the plate.
So are you suggesting he didn't deserve a second term?
No, he could deserve it by default, not because by design. He's getting it by default because maybe nobody wants that job. So hey, Mr. Chairman, continue with it. So what's going on is, when the desirable is not available, you now have the available become desirable by default. So what Tinubu has gotten is by default, not because of his effectiveness in speaking to the issues affecting West Africa.
Let's plow back a bit. Let's look at the main goal of ECOWAS, which is to promote economic cooperation amongst member states in order to, of course, raise the standard of living and also promote economic development across the states. Now, some of the objectives of ECOWAS include promotion of cooperation and development, harmonization of agriculture, economic, and also monetary and industrial policies, abolition of trade restrictions and custom duties, establishment of a common fund, and also the implementation of infrastructural schemes. Let's look at all of these items individually vis-a-vis the current operations of ECOWAS. Are they closer to any of these objectives, or have they deviated?
Again, I think I was in Nigeria when ECOWAS was formed, and I've kept up with, what it is they do and why they do what they do. For the list you have enumerated, I don't think they have come close to anything. I think they have the ECOWAS passport. Last time I was in Ghana, of course, I was able to get in because with my American passport, having the Nigerian part of it, I got it. But in terms of economic integration, how much of that has happened? How much trade is going on between Nigeria and Senegal or Nigeria and Ghana? When there is a conflict between any of the West African countries, do they rally for it, or as opposed to one running to France, the other one running to whomever that former colonial master is? When you integrate, it's like a union. It should be harmonized. You should be uniform to that extent. If I want to drive from Nigeria to Senegal, do I have a tollway? Do I have an uninterrupted stop along the way? If I want to exchange currency, because again, if you look at when the euro was formed, it was because you have all this crisis among the 23 euro members and they couldn't figure out which currency was what. They dissolved that and then they went to euro. And that has enabled the euro to become an alternative currency to the dollar. So in West Africa, you have 54 countries and they all have different currencies. By now, like I said earlier, West African region should have been the leader in how to harmonize and drop all these inconvertible, useless currencies that is making it very hard for them to enjoy the critical mass that economic development requires. A lot of the countries in West African regions are 5-7 million people. They are not, some of them are smaller than Lagos. But when you come in and create that region, you create maybe 400 million people or thereabout that are now looking at themselves on economic terms. Hey, I don't have to worry about going to this particular part. I can drive. One of the things that effectively affects uniformity is transportation. Being able to move around. So between the ECOWAS country, do you have 1,000 miles of well-built roads that you and I can hop on and go anywhere? Because again, West Africans don't even do tourism. We're looking for people from West Africa, foreigners to come and do tourism when people within Africa don't even do tourism by themselves. And the reason for that is because of economic challenges, which goes back to infrastructure and then the ability to use a currency that is acceptable to everybody. So this is, if again, Tinubu is there, let him speak to this in his second term, even if he cannot do it. let him speak to it and push for a resolution that within 1 year we should have a currency. What is the name and how do you harmonize? That's what's going to get the world attention. But just giving a speech like he does, and nobody hardly understands what he says, it's not going to give him any mark other than that. Failing grade.
I think on the aspect of the currency, they seem to be more determined at this time. But let's look at some critical issues that many have raised, and that has to do with the recent, well, I call it a rise in coup d'etat happening in some African countries. This has been a source of worry. I remember, in the early aspects of Tinubu's administration as the chairman of ECOWAS, he was pretty much vocal against many of these coup d'etat, even threatened a military offensive, But some have argued that is ECOWAS actually addressing the root cause of many of these power grabs? Because in some of those states, those those coup organizers seem to enjoy public support. And that brings to the fore the quality of governance in member states. Do you think ECOWAS is actually doing enough to ensure that its member states actually deliver on the dividends of democracy to its citizens?
Again, a good question, but my answer is tending the grade of F. Look, every politics is local. And why is it local? Because you have to address the immediate people, the need of people immediate to your own jurisdiction. So the things that's happened with, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger is something to be considered and not something to be yelled at. Look, Mubarak was there in Egypt until Irisi came in. Irisi came in and took over. Nothing happened. So democracy is not necessarily a panacea for economic development. We've seen it in Nigeria. If you look at Nigeria in 1999 when Obasanjo came in, or prior to him coming in, 1 million naira was worth almost $12,000. 25 years into the so-called democracy, 1 million naira is worth $600. Why would anybody feel democracy is working for Nigeria? When the one single thing that should give you a hope is constantly being eroded, and that is the currency. By now, 1 million naira should have been maybe $25,000 or $40,000, but it hasn't been the case, and people are still jumping up and down and saying democracy. What people want is a relevant and effective governance that makes their life, give them a sense of security, give them pride, gives them the ability to do what hope. If you have a democracy when all those things are not there, it is not worth anything. It shouldn't. I'm not a subscriber to the idea democracy is all the things that Africans or West Africans make it to be. It has to be relevant. So far, it is not. So if ECOWAS can step up to that rate and begin to speak to this issue, recognizing that people have, 15 nations over there, and then within those nations are people with diverse, tribal and sentimental values, address those. When people feel happy in their own area, the economy grows. But if it doesn't, it doesn't matter. If you give everybody in West Africa $1 million and an oil well, what are they going to do? They fly to Dubai to go do shopping. They haven't, in their mind, actualize that productivity has to be local, and it has to address the three basic things about life: food, shelter, and clothing. If you don't satisfy those things, building a museum and going on vacation ain't gonna do nothing for you. So the point has to be bring it back home. If military, I am not a promoter of that. I knew Nigeria when it had all that kind of stuff. But speak to what is relevant. Speak to the rule of law. Don't have a president. You see, look, Africans or Nigerians love this benevolent leadership. The mood and the feeling of the president dictates what happens in the country. It shouldn't be. The president gets 24 hours in a day. How much time does he really have to be effective if all he's doing is sitting around entertaining people? How many times has Tinubu gone out to speak to Nigerians? Has he visited one of these zones? Has he really come out and speak like a president? No, he hasn't. He's taken the comfort of, this is my time, God has given me this. We don't talk about God when we're trying to affect people's life. We do it by policies. We do it by an agenda. And then oftentimes you do it by compromise. You don't do it by concession.
I'm sorry to, of course, I break your line of thought, but another issue being brought to the fore is the influence of Western powers. Some, like the likes of Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, saying that Western powers have infiltrated the likes of ECOWAS, and for that reason, they went ahead to form their own parallel group, calling it the Alliance of Sahel States. And they also pledged, no, not pledged per se, but they are tilted towards the likes of Russia, and Iran for support. Still people outside Africa. So my question to you is this: can Africa as a continent truly operate without the influence of the West?
Of course they can. I mean, when the Chinese are there doing the things they're doing, did they do it by conquest? They do it by invitation. When a lot of this, we sit there, or Africans or Black people sit there, and we use this excuse of, we have been colonized, we have been enslaved. At what point do we stop? Okay, is there any university in the world a Black person, an African, hasn't attended? I live in Dallas, Texas. I have run for office. I've interacted with the white men. No white man can intimidate me if I was to be president of Nigeria, because you have to rise. You have to be confident. It's not about the degrees these Africans flash and parade. You have to be confident and say, no, you can't do this. How many Africans can say that? Can Tinubu even say it? How can Tinubu say it, or any other of African leaders, whenever they get sick, they go abroad? Do you know when you go and as a president of a country, you go to another country and subject yourself to medical checkup, you have compromised yourself, because they now have something on you that if you try to be bold, they're going to say, hey, we're going to expose you. But we don't think about it. I would say Westerners. Well, who are these Westerners? Are they two-headed Westerners? They're the same thing. In fact, the Westerners have sort of backed off from Africa. It's now the white lookalike. The Chinese, the Lebanese, the Indians, these other people are considered to come from sea countries that, we Black people get intimidated by, and we can't even speak up to them. So what has to happen? There's got to be a mental orientation that fortifies this stand on your feet and tell somebody, no, you can't do it. You know what the West respects? When you push back. If they push you, you push back and say, heck no, I'm not going to do it. Now they say, uh-oh. But if they tell you to do it, just like the World Bank and IMF come over there and run circles around our so-called financial experts and ministers, and they keep doing the things, they tell them, no, we don't have to do with the World Bank, we don't have to do with the IMF. Boldness and confidence, nobody gets a degree in it. It's either you have it or you don't have it. No amount of PhD is going to give you that until you defend your own territory. Your home is entitled by you, by nature, to defend it. You don't have to give an inch anybody who comes there to dictate to you. And that's what we have done, and we have done it to the detriment of the growth of that particular region. All right. And I'm saying it. We have to, whomever is the president of a country should be bold to stand up to either the person from in Washington, D.C. or London or Russia. Tell them, I'm not going to do it, and then watch me do it. Let me give you an example. Okay, when my father was a chief in his village in 1955, the Irish people wanted to build a teachers training college in his town. And if they have built it, they will do what they will name it something. My father said, no, don't build for us, build with us. Remember that phrase. Don't build for us. Africans have allowed other people to come and build for them. No, build with us, not for us. And that's why that teachers training college is not named after any saint. It's named after my town, and it was the only one in Eastern Nigeria that remains that way. You have to be bold. You have to be confident. Why people are not, I don't know, whatever, maybe because we see Jesus as being white, and then everybody comes.
Talking about bold, Ejike, because we're pressed for time, do you think ECOWAS is actually managing the issues of Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso the right way? Some of the opinion that, as against blowing hot, why not draw them in and, sort of integrate them and find a way to work with them? Or will it look like, in a way, if ECOWAS goes that route, they're endorsing their style of government, which is power grab?
No, it's a defense. They are defending their territory. In fact, it's good that they are doing those things. It's good that 3 out of 15 has come together on a geographic alliance to protect themselves. Since the credit of Scramble for Africa, the colonial people divided Africa into what it is. Since then, no two African country has said, you know what, we are too small. Let's come together. Because again, the number is a critical factor when you're talking about a country's reputation. So if these three people can do, in fact, I'm even hoping that they collapse all those three boundaries and become one nation to show that, at some point, we don't have to go along with a boundary that some of us think is artificial. Come together for the protection and of your own people in the area that you are. Again, this is what the West. Look at what happened with Germany. The West and the East, they came back together after the wall came down. Africa, Togo and Benin. Look at those two tiny countries. Come on, collapse it. Come together. I love the things the three men are doing over there. Let it be an example. But let them not go into now and become power grabbing. Look at the people. Any president should wake up every day, look at the street and say, oh my God, what can I do differently? It's not about the prestige of the office. It's not about all these other, commissions you are chair of. Tinubu is not going to get any job after he's done with this. But you're going to have to leave a legacy of being relevant, of having done something that most people think you couldn't do. That's what is going to impact life. And that's what is going to make him go home and feel like, hey, I have done my part. Maybe somebody will come in and build on it. So ECOWAS is supposed to be the most relevant regional group in West Africa. Because again, because they have the greatest number of countries, and they probably have the most ability to be productive. But,
all right.
Because they have oil there, they have gold, they have other things most other regions don't have. So speak to that, harmonize, bring in your enemy, bring him to be closer so that way you can begin to feel what it is they're trying to do. Don't push it. This French speaking and running to France. Who's Macron? You look at these guys that come to Africa, they are younger men and they're dictating to older men. I mean, in the tribes, okay, anyway.
All right, Ejike,
the point is that I like what is going on, and let Tinubu use his second term to effect a change that will be lasting, and not just look at it like, I got another job, he's going to look good on your resume. Nobody's going to hire him after he's done. So let the people that you are representing, hire you and feel good that you're doing a job for them.
Anyway, we definitely hope he performs, But thank you so much for your contribution on the program. I think one thing I would take away is the fact that you said that for a president to get treatment outside his country is an indictment. And it also leaves him vulnerable because they might just have his health records, which, might just be a tool against him.
I live on this part of the world, and I can tell you, when I meet you, what goes on when they become vulnerable. Because they have everything on, when you're sick, you're on a sick bed, you're x-rayed, everything. And then somebody's holding that record. Any sensible African president should not go abroad to get treatment.
All right, thank you so much. But we need to go. Ejike, thank you so much. We need to go. Thank you. Ejike is actually a global affairs expert. Thank you once again for joining me on the program. Well, at this point, this is where we drop the curtains. In case you missed out, you can actually catch up on our YouTube platform. That's at News Central TV. And of course, you can follow me personally at Dakbo at Digboye. Bye for now.